Brand disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed on this platform by individuals, callers, or invited guests are their own. The information you hear does not reflect the overall views of all parties associated with the brand. We encourage everyone to research all things heard live or via archive for edification purposes. Discretion is advised.
Help keep the show on the air. If you want to help, you can send your donation to PayPal. The email is debatetalkforyou@gmail.com or through Cash App, $Sal Showtime. Thanks for your support.
All right. Good evening, everyone out there in YouTube land, YouTube listening land, YouTube listeners. Whoever's joining us, welcome to Reparations Talk. My name is King Melek ZakarYah. I am your host, and I just want to welcome you to the first live podcast of Reparations Talk. Reparations Talk is a platform where we will present the documented evidence and the proof regarding reparations for the modern day descendants of American Negro slaves. We will discuss it. We'll talk about it. We'll try to break down what reparations could be, what they should be, and how we ourselves as Black people can begin to repair ourselves and be a people that is worthy to be given millions of dollars or acres of lands to rebuild. However, reparations should be. We'll discuss all that, and this is discussion. This discussion can be had by everyone, but the reparations that I'm talking about are would be specifically allocated to the modern day descendants of American Negro slaves. Those modern day descendants of the Black people who were captured here, captured in Africa, put in the belly of ships, enslaved ships, crossed the Atlantic Ocean, and were sold as chattel on North American soil, and who spent at least 300 years enslavement here in America. And we're talking from American slavery officially is on the books as 1619 to 1865. That's going to be your official enslaved years for our people. And then, we can talk about as time went on after post-American slavery, post-1865. In 1865, the 13th Amendment was ratified, and it was supposed to it stated that American slavery was over and that no man would be a slave, except in the case of for punishment or for a crime. But what they did was is they made up charges and trumped up charges and kept our people in servitude, enslavement. So we'll get into all of that. So tonight I want to start with talking about cities of the Black massacres, just the hundreds of Black cities, Black communities that were destroyed by our people. So the first thing we want to do is we want to talk about reparations, and the definition of reparations is to repair, to compensate or repair a people or a nation of people that you hurt, that you destroyed, that you conquered, basically. And as the show goes on, I'll bring up more information because there's an H H-40 bill that was put forward to explore what reparations could be, and I'll be bringing that up in the weeks to come. But right now, I want to start with a conversation about reparations and let you know that in 2009, reparations was on the table. Okay, reparations was on the table. Let's look at this meme I have up regarding reparations. How many of you knew that the UN was calling for reparations for the descendants of slaves in the United States in 2009? So the talk of reparations has been on the table before. There's been discussion in the air. There have been people and governments and entities that have felt that we should get it and have wanted to give it to us. Let me go on here. How many of you know that President Obama boycotted that conference and refused to attend nor discuss the subject? So in 2009, Obama was the president of the United States. And we all remember he was elected in 2008 is when he won the election and became the first Black president of the United States. And he ran under the campaign of the Yes We Can. And myself, actually, I really worked vigorously a lot of Black Americans vote to get him into office. I even went on a trip with Push Operation uh, in Chicago, Illinois at the time, and we went on a bus trip to the Democratic convention that was held in Denver, Colorado. It was at the Mile High Stadium. Mile High Stadium is what it's known as, and I worked as an usher there in the stadium for the Obama campaign administration right before he was officially elected. Let me continue with this meme here. So I'll just reiterate. How many of you know that President Obama boycotted that conference and refused to attend nor discuss the subject? So Obama was not interested. He wasn't interested in our people receiving reparations, our people being compensated for the hundreds of years of forced uncompensated labor. He didn't feel we were worthy of it, or he just didn't want to discuss it. Now, let me also bring up the fact that Japanese Americans received reparations. I believe they received them in 1988 for what occurred back in 1941 when Pearl Harbor was attacked by the Japanese. Pearl Harbor in Hawaii was attacked. We all know the story. And the United States government was real angry and showed anger towards Japanese Americans at that time and placed them in internment camps. And it was, I guess it was a hard thing for the Japanese Americans to go through at that time. It was quite an embarrassment. But, the government put them through that. And what they did was years later, I believe it was 1988, is when they acknowledged the pain that they inflicted on the Japanese Americans, and they were issued reparations because the United States government felt that they needed to repair the pain, the hurt of what they did to those people. Now, what they went through was, I'm sure it was hard. I'm sure it wasn't easy. I'm sure they were embarrassed. I'm sure they were hurt. I'm sure, Japanese families were ripped apart. But let's look at American Black people. And how we have just been perpetually, constantly victimized, intimidated, just spiritually destroyed throughout the years. We can look at American slavery. We can look at the period from 1865 up into 1965. that next 88 years when our people were constantly kept in servitude and serving. At any time, a black man, young or old, could be taken into custody and forced to work in. I think during those years, it was a brick laborer, working at steam mills, chopping wood, working in the forest, working in coal mines, working on the chain gang. They'd be all chained together, and they weren't paid. Uh, so this went on up into the 60s, and then and then during that time, during those same years, we were subject to being lynched. Lynching our people was an American pastime. So it just never stopped for us. So yeah, the Japanese were hurt for a minute, but what have we? How has America compensated us? How has America repaired us? That's a question that we need to be asking. And reparations talk is about the modern day descendants of American Negro slaves, ourselves, to step up and take control, take ownership of this issue, and talk about this for ourselves, amongst ourselves, and to also be the lead in correcting and straightening out the misconceptions about our people. Okay, let's continue with this mem real quick. Um, so, refused to attend nor discuss the subject. So if the UN, the United Nations, was going to discuss reparations, President Obama clearly stated he would refuse to even attend the conference or even discuss the subject. How many of you know that a large part of his refusal was because he felt that they were disrespecting Israel and the Jewish community? So he was so intent on standing up for Israel that he boycotted the conference and cost black citizens reparations. He cost us our reparations. We would have had it. And not only did he boycott them, he threatened to cut off relations and trade with any U.S. ally country that attended. So, what an ally is another country, foreign country that will stand beside the UN or the United States and be a partner with us. So that meant if Germany wanted to talk about reparations for us, they would be cut off and ignored. If Poland did it, if France did it, anybody who, Spain, any country that was interested in even African nations at the time, had to back off. So not only did he boycott them, he threatened to cut off relations and trade with any U.S. ally country that attended. So you can ignore blacks and 400 years of slavery and Jim Crow, but you better not offend the Jews on his watch. And that's very interesting regarding the Jews. We're talking about the Jewish. We're not talking about the Jews. We're really talking about the Jewish. We're talking about the Ashkenazis, uh, the the Jewish people of America who worship in the synagogues and who basically run America. Um, they're the rich, the wealthy. They're the 1%. That's who they are, and they actually use the lower level white people, like I mean, when I say lower level, I mean your senators, your congressmen, your attorneys, your doctors, your lawyers, your police, all those people. Um, and then the deeper thing about the Jewish is that they're really the ones who are responsible for funding the transatlantic slave trade. They're the ones who had the slave ships built. They owned them. They were the captain. They were the crew. Okay. They were the ones who funded it, organized it, encouraged it, supported it, and spread it through other heathen nations that jumped on the bandwagon to enslave our people, like the nations of Spain, nations of Portugal, the Danish, the English. There's even a sub-Saharan slave trade where the Arabs, and that is even a lot earlier than the 16th century. Okay, so our need for reparations is not unfounded. Our need for reparations is not a light issue. So we have something to discuss here. Okay, so let's go on to the next mem. I want to talk about um, just proving, just laying out the documented evidence about why we would think that we would need reparations, and just prove that reparations are due our people, that there is some type of compensation that is due our people. And I really think the first thing would be a formal apology, would be the first thing. But let's look at the Black massacres that occurred across the eastern, southern region of America throughout the last, 200 years, maybe 150 years. And this is the Black history that is not taught in the schools. Okay, so the real history about our people, the truth about our people, has always been shut out of the public schools where we have been attending. Okay, so we're looking at what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, at least 20 massacres, 20 Black communities that were destroyed because our white counterpart. And you keep in mind, in these times, white people of America were boldly racist, and they felt they were self-entitled to be racist against us. And anytime we had a successful, thriving communities, where we were self-sufficient as a people, recycling our own Black dollars and our resources and our food, building our own homes, cultivating our own land, crops, sharing the food between our people, raising our families with the man at the head of the household, and the wife partnering with him. They're working together and raising the children under a two-parent household. They destroyed that. So we're looking at Chicago, 1919, and we all remember the summer of 1919, which was known as the Red Summer, because there was just so much bloodshed. There were so many city riots. They were called race riots back then. So many city race riots across America in the summer of 1919. Now, 1919 was the year that Black soldiers who fought in World War I would return to America from overseas, and many of them were attacked wearing their U.S. uniforms, U.S. military uniforms. They were attacked. They were told not to wear their uniforms, and they were stripped of their uniforms. So there were race riots all over America in 1919. And one community that was in Chicago was destroyed. A neighborhood was destroyed. We're looking at Springfield, Illinois, in 1908. We're looking at East St. Louis massacre in 1917. Yes, that one is known as the East St. Louis massacre. We can go back up here to Detroit, looking at 1943. Washington, 1919. Like I said, that was 1919. They were all over the place. There's even more that are noted. Vicksburg, Mississippi, my parents' hometown, 1874. There was a community. We all know about Rosewood in 1923. There was a movie about that. We got Charleston as recent as 2015, which was destroyed. We had Black community destroyed there. We got New Orleans, 1866. We got Colfax, Louisiana, Opelousas, Louisiana, Fiber Docks, Louisiana. That's a French town, so that was a Creole town that was probably destroyed. So let me go to the next mem. We're going to keep talking about. We're going to talk about the biggest and the most successful Black community that was destroyed by a mob of racist, jealous white people. Yes, we're talking about the Black Wall Street. I hit that twice. Let's see if we can get that back up. Very good. We're talking about the Black Wall Street. The Black Wall Street was located just outside of the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma, in a city community that became known as Greenwood, Oklahoma. Now, Greenwood, Oklahoma, was started by two very very wealthy, very well educated Black men. I'm gonna tell you talk to you about the two gentlemen who uh, started the Black Wall Street. Okay. We're going to talk about of Ottawa W. Gurley, uh, was a turn of the century Black educator, entrepreneur, and landowner who was born as a former slave. Okay, born born to former slaves. Okay, um, in 1889, after resigning from a position he held with Grover Cleveland presidential administration, OW is what he's known as. His name is Ottawa W. Gurley, but he was known as OW. Moved from his home state of Arkansas to Perry, Oklahoma, in order to participate in the Oklahoma land grab of 1889 with his wife Emma. And he later relocated to Tulsa to seize economic opportunities resulting from the city's multiracial population boom. Okay, so at this time, um, when you're talking about multiracial, you really basically talking about Black folks and white folks. And there were very few Latinos in America. Okay, so you're talking about white immigrants, many white immigrants from different of those white nations like Germany, like Poland, like Ireland, like Scotland, places like that. They would migrate from. But when white people came to America, they became white Americans. Okay, so we're excuse my phone. So what we're doing is we're talking about another partner that came into came into a partnership with OW and helped him shape the city. Okay, so OW later forged a partnership with fellow Black businessman, excuse me, John the Baptist Stafford, okay, AKJB, with whom he shared a general distrust of white people. Both men chose to go by their initials instead of their first names. Here's why. This action was a form of silent protest because men in the South were customarily addressed by their surnames, while boys were called by their first names. So sadly, white men often address Black men by their first names as a form of emasculation. So by using their initials, OW and JB, that circumvented this practice. So just a way for them to kind of take control of it. And so here's the key takeaways regarding the Black Wall Street. Some important things. I'm trying to paint a picture for you. I need to help you understand how self-sufficient our people were, and that had Black Wall Street not been destroyed the way it was, today as a people, we would be in a different economic situation. We would be coming from a more powerful economic standpoint in terms of independent as a people. Because we had a camaraderie back then that does not exist today. I'm gonna say that again. Black people, the American Negro, had a camaraderie 150 years ago in this country, the way we work together, that doesn't really exist today. We have some of us getting back to it, but on a larger scale, we're very divided. We're extremely divided, and I know you're going to agree with me on that. So, key takeaways about the Black Wall Street and about the two brothers who started it. Ottawa W. Gurley was a Black educator, entrepreneur, landowner who was born to former enslaved Negroes. At the beginning of the 20th century, he bought 40 acres of land in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So he bought the 40 acres himself with his own money. Gurley forged a partnership with Black businessman John the Baptist Stadford, and the two developed an all-Black district in Tulsa, which became known as Greenwood. Okay, so it became known as Greenwood, Oklahoma first, and then it kind of evolved into the Black Wall Street, and there's a whole story behind that. When hundreds of American Negroes moved to Greenwood for the oil boom, the two became increasingly wealthy. So they became very, very wealthy, very, very popular. Greenwood's prosperity became legendary in Black America, with Booker T. Washington dubbing it the Black Wall Street. Okay, so there, hence the name Black Wall Street. Booker T. Washington, who was a very powerful and influential educator, businessman, he was so impressed with Greenwood, Oklahoma, and its success, and how it was such a thriving community, and how it was such a sustaining community, and that the wealth was just it was just on point, and it was recognizable, that he nicknamed it the Black Wall Street, and that's how it got its name. So powerful, and I believe it was the end of March, 1921, when a young Black boy entered into an elevator that was operated manually operated back in those days, and this happened to be a white girl was running it, and she falsely accused him of rape or something, and it snowballed into him being arrested, and the Black citizens, the Black men of the Black Wall Street, finding out about it, going to the jail, trying to defend him, the white mob showing up, the face off, and it just snowballed into the white mob that grew a lot bigger and stronger than the Black men, and they eventually went in and they started looting and tearing the Black Wall Street apart, and they got in touch with, I would say, the American government, because they had planes and they bombed it from the air. So it was bombed and burned, and the white mob went on a murderous rampage, and they just basically destroyed the Black Wall Street. And so, from this, are you telling me that Black people don't deserve reparations? I could stop talking right now. This alone is enough. You know, I could stop talking here. We could be done with it now. We could go to Washington, and we could very well expect reparations to be issued. Okay, I'm just making a point, my people. I want to go to this next mem and just talk about a Bible verse. Now, I'm a Hebrew Israelite, and I believe in the Bible. I want to say something about the Bible too. That it is the history book of our people. Okay, and we'll get deeper into that in shows to come. But what's going on with the Bible today is that there are some American lawmakers, leaders of the community. I think it's a couple mayors, people in Congress that are on the same-sex attraction thing, and the Bible is now being deemed hate speech because the gay people need approval. And so what that does is, if you don't want to hear verses that tell you homosexuality is wrong, you're going to deem the whole Bible hate speech. And seeing what that does is that's very damaging. That can be damaging to us because the entire book from Genesis to Revelation is full of the documented history of our people, full of the instructions that the Most High gave us to live. They're actually called laws, statutes, and commandments that we're supposed to live by. When you look in the Bible, a lot of Black Christians don't get this, but when you look in the Bible, you're going to find that there is the whole structure of government, of family, of the man's appearance and behavior, of the woman's appearance and behavior, of the family structure that has been totally ignored by the powers that be of this nation. So right here in the book of Habakkuk, here's a verse that says, "Woe unto him that buildeth a town with blood and establish a city by iniquity. America, land of thieves, home of slaves." So it's just basically saying that America is stolen land, and they brought slaves here, and so it is kind of a home of slaves. So, I'm making a point here, people. I'm making a case here, and as a modern day descendant of American Negro slaves, I need to vent. I need to talk about this. Both of my parents were born in Vicksburg, Mississippi, right in the middle of the Jim Crow South. And they grew up under horrible conditions. They lived in fear. They were intimidated. They were cut off from many things, much disappointment. And neither one of my parents were ever able to receive any type of counseling or any type of compensation or direction or to get help. I mean, they really pushed a lot of their pain and their wounds down, and they migrated to the northern states because the Jim Crow, the Southern attitude, the way white people were down there, even as recent as the '60s, was enough to make you pack your whole family up and leave. Enough to make you desire to live in a whole nother atmosphere. And that's what my parents did. So, so it's, we're a people who have a valid voice regarding reparations, and we should be respected for this. Okay, so we're just gonna break down kind of in chronological order here. This next bill expresses how it is for us. 400 years of slavery, 100 years of Jim Crow, 75 years of miseducation and abuse. The miseducation would be our people basically in the late 50s fighting to be accepted into the American public school system, where the white people were trying to keep it segregated. And in my opinion, it should have stayed. We should have stayed segregated. But you need to understand that bombing and burning and that murderous rampage of the Black Wall Street, that kind of killed something in our people. Okay, that kind of discouraged our people from ever trying to be a self-sustaining community on our own. And so then we started fighting to be a part of theirs. And each step of the way, they were giving us heat about it. They were throwing us shade about it. So 75 years of miseducation. So when we got in there, we began to be miseducated because we were learning American history and being conditioned out of our own history. I'll leave that as that. 60 years of public lynching. Okay, we're talking about the American pastime of lynching our people. And a lot of our people who were lynched were not just vagrant Black people. You're talking about turn of the century entrepreneurs, business people. Oh, Shalom. Hey, I'm actually live right now. Can I call you back? Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll call you back in a little bit. Cool. Excuse me, folks. So, the American pastime of lynching our people. Now, this was like a public um, um, entertainment. Um, you're gonna have white people during these years of lynching our people. You're gonna have them organizing these lynchings, um, planning on the days we're going to do this. Um, Putting together publications, selling tickets, announcing it at church, going to church on a Sunday morning, and being prepared to have a picnic. Okay, pick that nigga picnic for that lynching Sunday after church. Okay, so this was an American pastime that people look forward to. And then I won't get into the details of what they would do to our people, how they would lynch them, but you'll see pictures, and we'll share in the coming shows in the coming podcasts here on Reparations Talk. But we've got a valid case here, and so what I was saying is that a lot of the men and women, but it was mostly men who were lynched of our people, were turn of the century Black entrepreneurs who were successful business owners. One particular case was three Black men who owned a grocery store by the name of People's Grocery Store, and one of those three men was a real good friend of Ida B. Wells. And the People's Grocery Store was Black owned, and it was doing better than the counterpart white grocery store that was on kind of like the other side of the town. And that white business owner got angry, and he got a white mob together and showed up at the People's Grocery Store. And there was a fight that broke out between the three men and the white mob, and the three men fought back with guns, and like 3 or 4 white men got killed. Then they were arrested. Then, of course, what always happens is the white people stormed the jail. They pulled the three men out, took them to like a field somewhere, and they fought back. They played with them for a little bit. Those men fought valiantly, but they ended up just shooting each of them in the head, and it was terrible. It was really bad what happened to those three brothers who owned that People's Grocery Store. It was so successful. It was a beautiful grocery store. Fresh vegetables, fresh meat. Um, these brothers were just incredibly disciplined, incredibly business savvy, just really good men, and they were family men. Each man had wives and children that they were ripped from their lives. So we can get into who they were too. But the rest of this mem says, and still, we're the only group that hasn't received reparations, and we're labeled as racist whenever we speak of these injustices. So when we talk about the crimes and atrocities that were constantly committed against our people over the years, they label us as racist. They label us as keepers of hate speech. We're bringing forth hate speech. We hate white people. Well, let me say something to white people. Let me just be bold. You should be ashamed of yourself, and you should repent. But you should also be grateful and thankful that the modern day descendants of American Negro slaves would never do to you what your ancestors did to us. We're not allowed to do that. Okay, that Bible I was talking about, that's our history book. And it's full of the laws of our people that we're supposed to follow. We are not about hate. We are not allowed to hate. We're all about love. But there is an order that love is administered. But once again, we would never do to you what your ancestors and what your people do to us today. And white people will say, well, you know, um, I didn't own slaves. There's no white person alive today who has ever owned slaves. Well, your ancestors did, and they laid the foundation. So you reap the benefits from it every day, all the time. And you're just as guilty because you say nothing about it. Okay? America's dirty little secret that's swept under the rug. You hold your head up high and you don't say anything about it. So you are just as guilty. Okay. Another group of people, let's see, I need this right here. I want to, we just have situation after situation that we can talk about here. Did you know most so called Black people are actually the original people of the Americas, but they were reclassified as colored, Negro, and Black by the US? Let's see if I can go back here. So, so what we have here is we have two groups of Negroes. We have two groups of Negroes. What we have is we have the American Negro, the tribe of Judah, who prior to 1619 was in an area of West Africa, right around the region of Ghana, Benin, West Africa, maybe below Nigeria. It was also it did become known as Negro land, where African tribes um, sold the tribe of Judah Negroes to the Europeans who came there, the European explorers who came there specifically to bring them into slavery, capture them, and kidnap them and force them into slavery. So we're talking about them. But let me go to, because I want to get this in order real quick. Now, this mem I got up here, on the left of it, it talks about the 14th to 17th century Native Americans of North America. So when I say, so the first group is going to be the first group of Negroes would be the tribe of Judah, the Negroes who were sold to the Europeans by the Africans on African soil, and then brought to the coast of Africa, put on the ships, and brought here by 1619. That's going to be the first group I'm talking about. But when we're looking at the 14th century, let's go to Christopher Columbus in 1492, landing off the Atlantic coast of the United States and claiming to have discovered it. Okay, and so what we now know is that long before Christopher Columbus came to America, that there were Black people here, that the real original natives of North American soil are Negroes, Black people. Okay, so the 14th century, 17th century Negroes, they tried to erase. Okay, and then you have your transplant natives, the Native Americans that Hollywood constantly pushed down our throat. Okay, the 18th to 21st century natives. Okay, so those are not your real natives. Your real natives are going to be your original, the people who were here first. And the one thing about European explorers back then, when they're documenting things in their diary or their travel, they have a travel book that they make all their notes in. They call it as they see it. They have no shame. And you can't you can try to hide that stuff, but those documents are there. Those ancient documents are there back from the 14th century when white explorers would make their notes, and they are describing. They're very descriptive. White people can be very descriptive about what they see, and I have some of that. So let me see if I have one of those to just have you guys hear about how they describe. Uh, let's see here. Let's look at one. Let me read you something that William Penn on the Leni Lapade, Delaware, the first natives he encountered here in America. Now, this is a letter to the committee of the Free Society of Traders of 1683. Okay, so this white man, William Penn, wrote this. The natives I consider in their person, language, manners, he calls it religion, and government, with my sense of their original. For their persons, they are generally tall, straight, well built, and strong and clever, and mostly walk in a lofty chin. Of complexion, they're black, but by design as gypsies in England. So they're comparing us, the black people that they saw on North American soil, to the blacks that they saw in England. They're saying, oh, these black people look the same. Uh, they grease themselves with bear's fat, clarified, and using no defense against sun or weather. So black people don't get sunburned. We don't. We can go out. The vitamin D in the sun is really good for us. For our melanin, it builds up our melanin and it regenerates us. Okay, so he's getting off, coming to North America, getting off the ship, and noticing that these black people don't need any protection from the sun. Okay, so or using no defense against the sun or weather. Their skins must needs be swarthy. Now, swarthy, the word swarthy is an English word for black. Okay, here's another one. Who is this? Bernard Snip, another explorer. In the first recorded description of the Southeast Native Americans, this Italian explorer, Giovanni da Verranzano, um, in the service of King Francis I of France, stated in, now we're talking about the 1520s, that they go. So this is post 14th century. So this is right in the middle of the 14th and 17th century. So you got explorers constantly coming over here, constantly recording who they're seeing, and they call it as they see it, my people. Um, they go. He's saying here, stating in 1520s, they go entirely naked except about the loins. They wear skins of small animals like martens, fattened by the girdle of plaited grass, to which they all round the body of the tails and other animals, hanging down to their knees. The complexion of these people is black. Okay, so even though if we're dark skinned, if we're medium brown skin, if we're chocolate brown, they're calling us black. Because you got to understand, they're white, and they're not really white. They're pink. They're pink, and sometimes they're white. And maybe I don't know. I guess they get tan from the sun, but when they take off their clothes, the butt cheeks are white. The arms are white. Whatever's not covered is white. Yeah. So So the complexion of these people is black, not much different from that of the Ethiopians. So we know Ethiopians are black people. Their hair is black and thick and not very long, tied back behind the head like a small tail, excuse me. As for the physique of these men, they are well proportioned, or medium height, a little taller than we are. They have broad chests, strong arms, and the legs and other parts of the body are well composed.
There's nothing else except that they tend to be broad in the face. They have big black eyes and attentive and open look. They are sharp, cunning, and argyle and swift runners. Okay, so there's a black person out there saying, let's just talk about reparations. Let's talk about the money. What are you doing with all this history and stuff? Who cares about all this history? Well, people, one of the reasons why they don't think we deserve reparations is because they see that we don't know who we are. Yes, they see that we have absolutely no idea of our own history, and that we have no interest in it. Now, you're going to doubt that. You're going to say that I'm talking out the side of my neck, but start paying attention. You're gonna understand what I'm saying. You're gonna connect with what I'm saying, and you may connect with it too when it's too late. But I'm telling you, they're looking at us and they're saying these people don't know who they are. Now, I lived in Germany for 5 years, from 97 to 2001. And over in European countries, they know who we are. They acknowledge who we are. They have an understanding who we are as a people. They walk up to you and tell you. They walk up to you and greet you. They honor you over there. The same thing that the Black American soldiers in 1919 experienced over in France, fair treatment, gratitude and respect by the white people over there. They didn't treat them the way the white people treated them in their own country, suppose it, was the same thing that I experienced in 1997 when I went over to Germany and was working as a singer and traveling all through Europe. Okay, singing on stage in Germany, in the south of France, through Poland, up in Denmark, traveling to Turkey, traveling to Japan, all these places where those heathen nations acknowledged who I was as a Black man with great honor and respect over there. They knew more about the history of my people than I did at the time. And they told me so. So if you're a Black person in America, and you've never, ever left the community that you grew up in, not only have you not traveled to another state, but you've never traveled to a foreign nation, would you stop being judgmental to someone like me? Could you like shut your mouth and learn something? If you've never traveled out of the United States and experienced that type of respect, I'm trying to help you. I believe you deserve reparations, but I think you're going to spend it wisely if you get any, if you know something about yourself and you start to walk in it. I believe that. So that's what all this history is about. That's what all this history is about. And I'm just trying to get you to reach out to it. I'm trying to impart this to you. Okay, let's move on. So we talked about the Indian, the Negro Indian, and then the slave trade Negro. So there's two groups of Negroes that you need to understand. But what you even more need to understand here is that Virginia passed two acts in 1682 that combined Native Americans, okay, and Negro enslaved into the category of Negroes. We came from Africa. So it's easy for us to be labeled Africans because we were on the continent of Africa when we were captured. But we are a whole different group of Black nation. We'll prove that in the weeks to come. Already read that. Here's a actual picture of a reclassified as Negro, the other slaves. This picture is over 100 years old to show how the Carolina Cherokee looked. So this is what original Cherokee Indians looked like. Very much Negro looking. And all in those southern states and all of that eastern coast were originally occupied for thousands and thousands of years by Negro people. And here's one of them. Okay, here's how you cut a people off from their inheritance and you steal their wealth for yourself. And you do it legally under your nation. Okay, so here's how you cut a people off from their own inheritance. Paying to play Indian, the Dawes roll, and the legacy of $5 Indians. I don't know if you ever heard the phrase $5 Indians, and basically that is 125 years ago when um, when Native Negroes were being pushed out of their land because the United States government needed the land, they wanted the land. The Dawes roll was an act that was put together to relocate and organize the Negro Indian tribes and keep them connected to their land in some way. But let's look at what actually happened. Okay, the Dawes Commission established in 1893 to enforce the General Allotment Act of 1887, or the Dawes Act. Okay, so it was called the Dawes Act. And there was a Dawes Commission who put this Dawes Act together. It was charged with convincing tribes to secede their land, give up their land to the United States, and divide remaining land into individual allotments. Okay? The commission also required Indians to claim membership in only one tribe and register on the Dawes roll, what the government meant to be a definitive record of individuals with Indian blood. So it was really meant to organize the native Negro Indian tribes, but because see, some Cherokees probably married Choctaw. You know, they were the uh, the native history, the family history ran deep, and it was just too much for white people to keep track of. And so they were trying to convince them, hey, can you just claim to be one tribe? Can we just get you to be one tribe? And let's get a definitive record of the Indian blood here. That's what it was meant to do, to organize them. But let's look at what happened. What happened was the white people who were on this Dawes Commission and who wrote this Dawes Act, they were opportunistic white men who wanted access to land and the food rations. Okay, this is Gregory Smithers, associate professor of history at Virginia Commonwealth University. This is well documented, my people. These were people who were more than happy to exploit the Dawes Commission. They exploited the commission that was put in place to organize the Negro Indian tribes. And government agents for $5, 125 years ago, $5 was a lot of money. They were willing to turn a blind eye to graft and corruption. Okay, so corruption. I didn't get on here. Let me see here. Did I leave one out? Okay, let me just go back. Let me get it here because I have no, that's something else. We're going to see. Um, but as you can see, I'm very passionate about this and very personal about it because I'm talking about my own people and you know should be talking about it. We'll revisit that. So now I want to jump to another topic that plagues our people, and we're talking about our the incarceration of Black men and women, but of course, starting with men, of course. And what we need to know is that low crime rates are bad for business in white-owned private prisons. So a lot of these private prisons are owned by wealthy white people, and they make money off of us being incarcerated. Let's go over the details of the arrangement. The prison industry complex has ordered the United States to keep the beds full or face stiff penalties. Okay, so you got money involved here. Private prisons have contracts that state if they fall below a certain percentage of capacity, that states must pay the private prisons millions or get sued. Now, public interest found quotas for prisoners in over 60 contracts, ranging from mandatory occupancy of 70% in California to 100% in Arizona. We found 41 of 60 contracts contain occupancy requirements. Okay, so they are required. There is a requirement to keep prisons full because there is money to be made. There is money. Okay, so let me. Now we're talking about money. Let me just that I wanted to share because I want you to understand the importance of money. This was a question that I had about money, wondering what is the power behind money, and how is it that paper money that is made from cutting down trees, how did they convince us and the world that money has value? You know what I'm saying? There's something to that. So I'm going to go to First Timothy. I like that verse. First Timothy chapter 6, verse 10. And it reads like this. And this is going to be familiar to y'all. For the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. So, what this is saying in this verse is that the way we love money can lead to evil. For the love of it's not that money is the root of evil, because that's how the Christians who don't read their Bible, who don't study their Bible, will walk around here saying money is the root of all evil. Money is the root of all evil. And it's not. The love of money, the love that you put, the energy that you put into it, the way you use money, the way you exploit money, what you purchase with money, what you try to gain with money can lead to evil. You make it evil. Okay? Root of all evil, which while some, it's saying it right here, which while some covet after, they pine after it, they want it so badly, they manipulate to get it, they have erred from the faith, they have made mistakes and have wandered away from their faith because of money. Okay, they've erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. So because of money, you bring on sorrows. You pierce yourself with spiritual demons and bad things befall you when you have a earthly desire regarding money. Okay, and you're manipulating yourself to get money. Maybe you're. I saw this girl on Dr. Phil today who was setting herself up as a companion for rich men. But then she says, "Well, I don't have sex, but I'm your companion. I'm your arm candy." And they pay her, tens of thousands of dollars do this to live. They pay all her bills, and they spend all these expensive. They pay her bills, and they buy her all these lavish gifts, and they buy her clothes. She has all the best clothes and sports cars, and they travel and stay in all the best hotels. They eat the best meals, that kind of stuff. She's being bought. The next scripture I want to bring up, Ecclesiastes 10 and 10:13, verse 10:13. But this one is powerful. This one blew my mind right here. Let me go to Ecclesiastes, right before the book of Zechariah, and right after Proverbs. We're going to go to chapter 10. We're going to go to chapter 10. And we're going to go down to verse 13. 13. And what does it say? Beginning of the words of his mouth is, excuse me, is it what? Excuse me. Yeah, well, verse 13 is good too, but let me get to verse 19. I mean, verse 19. Let's see. Yeah, so we're going to do Ecclesiastes chapter 10, verse 19. A feast is made for laughter, and wine maketh merry, but money answereth all things. Isn't that powerful? A feast is made for laughter. Makes sense. A feast in modern times, a feast is a party, and we come together for fun and laughing and dancing. That's what a feast is for. And wine maketh merry. We take that a step further in modern terms, and we get into alcohol and we have merry times. We're having a good time. But money answereth all things. Money answers everything. Ecclesiastes chapter 10, verse 19. So money is valid. This is in the Bible. Okay, the history book of our people, the words of the Most High. There's another verse that talks about back in Rome where Caesar, Rome conquered all of Europe, and there was Roman money, and there was a verse in the Bible also that talks about give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. So money is acknowledged in the Bible. Money is real. We need money. We can look in our lives and we can see that we can't accomplish anything without money. So money is established. Money and okay, you pay your rent, you pay your mortgage, your landlord or your loan company is satisfied. You pay your utility bill to the power company, they're satisfied. You get in line at the grocery store, you gather up all your groceries, you stand in line, and the grocery store is satisfied when you pay at the register. When you go to the mall and buy your clothes, you go and pick out your clothes and you get to the register, you slide your credit card, and they're satisfied. You paid for your purchases. So money answers everything. Reparations are due, are long overdue. The modern day descendants of American Negro slaves, because that money answers everything. But you got to have the right spirit around it. You've got to serve the Most High. You got to understand that. Money answers everything. The Most High acknowledges it. And we see here, white folks understand that. The next mem here supports the one that we just went past. Why are so many black men in prison? Let me see. Oh, right here. How would I do that? See if I can make that bigger. Okay, here we go. So why are so many black men in prison? But this is a people robbed and plundered, plundered of them are snared, or many of them are snared in holes, and they are hidden in prison houses. They have become a prey, okay, with no one to deliver, for plunder and no one to say, restore. Isaiah 42:22. So that's another reason why they want to deem the Bible as hate speech. For just 4 verses, I think there's 4 verses in the Bible that talk about homosexuality, and the Most High is serious about homosexuality. But what did Isaiah 42 verse 22 just say? What did it just break down about our people who are locked up in prison? It just explained it. So that's a powerful truth, once again. But this is a people robbed and plundered. Many of them are snared in holes, and they are hidden in prison houses. How many of y'all have a son, nephew, brother, father in prison? They are hidden in prison houses. They have become a prey with no one to deliver them. Some of them going to be in there for the rest of their life, and no one will deliver them for plunder, and no one to say restore. Okay. Now, to the person who says, well, there's plenty of white people in jail. There's plenty of Mexican people. There's plenty of other people in jail. That's your distraction so that you can forget about you. Okay. When the reason that they put other people are in there, whether it's physical or spiritual, because it's not just a physical battle, it's a spiritual battle. So some of these things happen on purpose, and some of these things fall into place because of the spiritual realm, because of prophecies that are stated in the Bible that neither you or I can stop. So that's why these things are happening perpetually, systematically, revolvingly, like a revolving door. These things happen, or you even use the word naturally that is happening. And see, when you talk about white people in jail, white men in jail, either they're in jail in a different way. Their jails are a lot of them are in a lot nicer jails. They're not struggling or suffering. Even when they're in the jails with the black people, there's strict segregation in the prisons. And the white men are going to be a lot better off than the black men. Okay. And then the other thing about white men in prison, which is going to show you how, how evil Edomites can be, because not only are they willing to treat black people bad, but they'll do that to each other. They're willing to hurt each other. We see that all the time. So that just attribute to their wickedness. How they are. We're not like that. Also, you got to read the curses of Deuteronomy 28. When you get into the Bible and you read Deuteronomy 28, that's a long chapter. I believe it goes from verse 1 to like 68. And so that first half, like verse 1 to like 16, is going to break down all of the blessings that the Most High has for his chosen people if they follow his laws and his commandments. It's all pointed out. And then from verse like 16 down to 68 are the curses. And it details what will befall the generations to come of American Negroes, of Judah, of the children of Israel, what they will go through. And when you read those verses from 16 down to 68, it is very, very obvious who they're talking about. And we'll get into that in shows to come. We'll break down that in shows to come. People, you've got to understand who you are to be worthy of any type of blessing. Hear this. Hear me when I tell you this. Okay, let's go to we're gonna reduce this one here. Reduce this one, and then we're gonna move on to the next one. See where we're at. Get it? Let me get that moved.
Yeah, stay with me, people. We're just getting this next pickup so that we can continue the presentation and to spread the facts, the information, and the truth about who we are as a people, and just continue to establish we are worthy of reparations, and that the reparations are due our people, and that they're long overdue our people, and that reparations can be in the form of money, can come in the form of land, but can also come in the form of self-repair as well. There are a lot of things that we can do to ourselves and for ourselves that will bring great blessings over our lives. And so I want to talk about that a little bit too. Talk about some specific plan that I have that the Most High has laid on my heart to tell our people what we can do to draw ourselves closer to each other, therefore drawing ourselves closer to Him and to a better life for us where we can have the reparations we deserve. So let's see, we can get this about. Okay, so we're back. Sorry about that. We were just trying to get that mem up. I wanted to show you one last picture right here. I think that this is a powerful image. Because it's just showing how 300 years ago, and that still exists. And basically, to us, people being enslaved. Okay, yeah. Slavery then, slavery now. Some things just never change. They just evolve. Okay, they become modernized. Okay, okay. This is not a coincidence. This is very significant, my people. And you need to understand who you are as a people. You are hugely significant. You are extremely powerful. And there are some white people who are acknowledging it. Now, there are some cool white people who, the kind of white people that I can be down with are the ones who speak truth. And they're out there. They're out there who are walking in this understanding of who we are. They're out there. So, but what we need to do is we need to come together first. We need to start loving each other and acknowledging each other and begin to walk in our truth as who we are. So, what are some of the things that we can do? First, I want to see who we have here on listening with us and see if there's anybody who has any questions or comments. So let's try to get comments. See any comments in the comment section? Yeah, give me just a second. We're gonna see who we have. See if we have any comments. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, okay, that's cool. No problem. No problem. I think we've probably been up for about an hour and a half almost. And I think we can wind down. It's 8:15 now, so we can wind it down at 8:30. And I have some specific plans, things that we can begin to do, that I think will help us as a people and will get us on the right track. Um, I want to use a couple examples, just about how we are as people. We have made such significant contributions in the area of our gifts and our talents, things we've invented. We add such, um, we add something in the air of the American vibe. We make it cooler, hipper. Um, we're the singers, the dancers, basketball players. We're even now we're into, we're lawyers, we're police officers, and when we show up, there's nothing like us and what we do. And so what we should do is start showing up for ourselves as a people. And I really think I think that all of these other heathen nations, like white people, and even Latino people, people who are here in America, I think that they see us as black nations dressing in the garments of ancient black nations, claiming our own heritage, and stop dressing up in shirts and ties and suits, the influences of America. And then we also colors and styles. I think we need to see more brothers wearing a full head of our natural, Yah given, beautiful nappy hair. We should stop it with the black man's fade, because the black man's fade is nothing more than the white man's military cut. Walking around with the shaved sides and the shaved heads, just a little bit of hair on top. No, we need more brothers walking around with a full head. Okay? Another thing that we should do, and I'm going to my notes, is black women, our beautiful black queens. They should really stop covering up their own natural hair with weaves, with human hair from other women of other nations, or synthetic hair that is not real. Because your hair is the most beautiful. Your hair is the authentic antenna connecting you to the knowledge and wisdom of the universe that I created. Okay, um, blonde hair is the natural hair color of the white woman. So when you wear blonde hair, you're telling the white woman that she's more beautiful than you, that her hair is more beautiful than your hair. Think about that. And though that is going to be quite offensive, come off offensive to some people, and quite shocking to some people. There's a lot of black people who are going to say, well, it's the style. It's all about style. This is the choice of style. No. Mm-mm. No. You are glorifying the white woman because that is her natural hair color. That is not the natural hair color of your people. Another thing that we could do, that we no longer do, is come together for the marches. Now, the particular march that I'm talking about is coming together in Washington, showing up as a people in Washington, and gathering at the National Monument and claim and acknowledge that those early monuments. I'm not talking about the Martin Luther King monument or these newer ones that were added, here I'm talking about the monuments that were built by our people, with the hands of our people, like the White House. That those monuments and the White House was built with the labor of our people, and I'm going to call it uncompensated labor under bitter constraints, being forced and not being compensated for it. Once again, hereby signifying that reparations are long overdue, our people, and that we deserve it. Another thing that I would love to see us do as people, come together as people, is to go down to Tulsa, Oklahoma, in that area, on the anniversary of bombing, burning, and the murderous rampage of Black Wall Street, and gather there as people and come together as a people and connect with what happened to our ancestors there. We need to do that. We need to come together as a people and start going now. I went one time about 8 years ago when I was living in Dallas. There's a group called Incarceration, and they organized a parade in Tulsa, Oklahoma, at the site of the Black Wall Street monument. There's a statue area there that is dedicated, and there's a museum there, and that is like ground zero of what used to be the Black Wall Street, Greenwood, Tulsa, Oklahoma. And a lot of our people died there. A lot of our people were cut down there. And the spirit of our people is in that area. And when you go there, you do connect with the ancestors. There's a brother who kind of leads a ceremony. And I'm not saying you don't come together and you don't, because we don't worship our ancestors. We don't worship our dead. But what we do is we come together and we acknowledge what they went through. Okay? We acknowledge what they went through. And we acknowledge that we know who they are and that we have a love for them and that we acknowledge that and you experience a peace. You are surrounded with what happened there, and you begin to resolve something in your people when we do that. And we're so cut off from that. So I want to organize that. So I want people to be thinking about that. Okay. So those are the three things that I think we should be doing, that we can do as a people right away to prepare ourselves and be worthy of reparations. Number one was the Black nations. Okay, I'm a Hebrew Israelite, so I know what I'm aware. And in that, I also wanted to mention a real quick example. Does anybody remember when the movie Black Panther came out? And when this was before the coronavirus and the movie theaters were still open, movie Black Panther came out. And at the premiere of the movie, what did American Black people do? They showed up dressed in African attire all over the country. I saw it on the news. Black people going to the movie Black Panther dressed in African attire. And we're not even African. Number one. Number two, and styles, men and women. Okay, brothers, wear a full head of hair if you can. Now, if you know, we've had people in ancient times who were bald. If you went bald and you like being bald, that's cool. But there's some of you who are bald because you think it's sexy, and you can still grow a head full of hair, and you need to come out of that. Some of you are bald for fun. Yeah. This would empower our people. This would three would be gathering, going to Washington, um, acknowledging that our people built those monuments, and then going to Black Wall Street down in Greenwood and connecting with what our people went through there, and have a healing come amongst us, amongst our people. So that's really important. This has been Reparations Talk, and I'm your host, King Melek ZakarYah. And it is a distinct honor and a pleasure for me to be here for my people. I have a great love for our people. This is personal for me, but this is also a responsibility that I have for our people. And I want to acknowledge, I want to shout out Marvelous, Marvelous Six, Marvelous Six Us. He says, cut check America like you did for Japanese, Jewish, Native, and Italians. That's right, brother. Speak that truth. Exactly right. Love that. Appreciate you joining in with us. Again, this has been Reparations Talk, and this is your host, who I am an ex-singer, songwriter, entrepreneur, the creator at Shalom Care. ShalomCare4U2U.com is the website where you can go and purchase all natural grooming products for brothers. Shalom Care, the number 4, the letter U, the number 2, the letter U.com. ShalomCare4U2U.com. And I'm first and foremost an activist for reparations for the modern day descendants of American Negro slaves. You can find me on Facebook and on Instagram under King Melek ZakarYah. All praises to the Most High. Have a blessed evening. Have a blessed night. And we will see you next week. The next shows are going to be, let me get the thing here and tell you, because I got it. Today is March 17th. We're going to have the next show on March 24th. And then we'll be doing another show on April 7th. So look for those shows. And you can look on my Instagram. You can look on my Facebook. I'll be posting for those 2 shows as well. March 17th, the first debut show. And the next show will be next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then the last show, my third installment, not the last show, but my third installment, the last one that I have on this flyer here. Okay, so the next show is Wednesday, March 24th, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Wednesday, April 7th, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Reparations Talk. My people, have a blessed evening. All praises.